kwatiri kuita zvakarepo pano paZim News Update, apo patinoda kupa mafirst hand update anonga ari kuitika munyika yedu yeZimbabwe. So muzuva ranhasi tafuma kufonera comrade Soko vanova vari vanoshandira military intelligent, tichivabvunza kuti nzira iri kuvhurwa yavaSibanda iyi zvakamira sei. Takanzwa vachitaura ivo kuti aiwa no hazvinazo problem because tiri kuona kuti wabva Sibanda vakakuaptwa kuti vange vachipinda mupolitibhiro wavamemba yepolitibhiro pari zvino. So tiri kuona panapa pari kunzi wabva Sibanda nekufamba kwenguva vachazoreplace vaKembo Mohadi. Sezvo tiri kuziva kuti vaKembo Mohadi vane nguva vakarequesta kuti mwiri yangu inini haichaiti zvakanaka because vaKembo Mohadi vanorwara nechirwere chegomarara. So tichipinda munhauwa VP Chiwenga, tikuona VP Chiwenga ndofunga takazvisa pano nezuro. VP Chiwenga vari kunzi vakaramba chikafu kwavakaenda kuinauguration yavaMuseveni, vari kufungidzira kuti vanogona kuassassinatwa because tiri kuona kuti zvegananda sort of like ana wikini uchivhai because tichipinda mimwe nhau mhuri yeZimbabwe pane nhau vari kuitika isiri kuzikana neveruzhinji, nhau yekutoti no kuri kunzi vanhu vavhotewe vanhu about 350 ndo vakuvhotera president kuti anga achipinda paupresident panyanga ani mazona. So pane hwaro muhombe kutoti kana munhu aine mari dzake ukakwanisa kukonvinza MPs yani maministers iya, kana une mari dzako hako wakakwanisa kuvakonvinza unotokwanisa kutodini kutonga unge uri president emhuri yeZimbabwe. So tikuona kuti game iri rinonga rakarongwa kudhara. vaMnangagwa vanenge vari men 100 meters behind people because vanozongokanda joka chete imozotanga kuti ya zvakazodai so ndo nhau itoripo kutoti ana kuda tagwerei vane mari dzekutoti vanokwanisa kukonvinza vanhu vese 350 vaya vakatopinda paupresident. So ngatidzoi makomrade tinawo pano tidzoi kuti zvinenge zvakamira sei.
Supposed to do? What can we do? There are things, that have been spoken about, right? To say, oh, we know how these people can turn an event into an opportunistic thing for them to want to spread, propaganda. And we are being told that, this is ZAA thing, that is going, to be happening. Instead of us, lamenting and crying over spilled milk or spoiled milk or spilled milk, we should be talking about, so what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to be creating a petition, right now to say this person is not supposed to be here because we know this is how, they end up, behaving? Because it is a propaganda war, with them. Look at, Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa, when Ramaphosa, came, what was the message, that came out came out from Prika Farm? The message was like, oh, Ramaphosa is coming, to say no one is going to do this, no one is going to do this, we will not allow that. But was that, the message? Was that what happened? We are now finding out that is not what happened. So we should be finding ways of fighting against such kind of misinformation, because this is how they gain traction. You've heard some folks saying that they are well ahead, and they get well ahead as a result of propaganda messages like the ones that were peddled when Ramaphosa came through. So everyone will be thinking, so if Ramaphosa is coming, the biggest economy in the southern region, in SADC, so if he's rubber stamping this, so then it means that we are on our own. And yet that is not the reality. They are trying to create a false picture here. And it's time we get to the bottom of it and make sure that we get to be ahead of them as well. Anyway, that is what I wanted to say.
Okay, I've heard, most probably I was turning around and going back and forth. So let me try to focus on now and forward. Yeah, my observation and thinking is, it's good for people to do the petitions, be it when there are programs and so forth and so forth. However, as we look into this political crisis, my thinking is that the generals, if they've got something on their sleeves, one way or another, we equally need to support an approach whereby this dynasty is stopped. Because you see, the whole matter is to consolidate power and to make sure that once the constitutional order is done away with, is to close the space for any other action. So to me, the generals, if they've got something on their sleeves, people have reservations on Chiwenga and so forth, but I really believe in terms of practicality, that line of thinking must be supported, whereby we support a scenario whereby we don't just stop it, but you see, people who behave like this, they need to actually be removed. So it's not a kind of saying, to me, an operation Resolve is part two. I will be of the opinion that it would be a legitimate measure to deal with this scenario, because the army and the security, they've got a responsibility to safeguard the nation. Because what we are seeing and unveiling in the country is something which will create worse troubles for us in the future. So the sooner that is stopped, the better. So I wanted to highlight the fact that even if it passes through parliament or is signed into law, I didn't want to pour cold water to say then we are done. But I wanted to highlight that the measure that will be required then to deal with such a kind of a people is to bring to the fore to say what we now have is an illegitimate regime. Because the moment we have this treason around the constitution, we now have an illegitimate government. And the only way to deal with an illegitimate government is to use means and ways that of course, others will say passive resistance. It's okay for people to do non-violent resistance, but at the same time, when we've got this kind of a scenario, I'm of the opinion that people might call it a coup or whatever, but I sustain a measure in the direction that will involve the generals to correct what they did in 2017. Because the generals are the ones who brought this scenario upon the nation. They must deal with this scenario. Then we usher in a transitional phase period whereby we reform the system, we reform the nation, to ensure that maybe in a few years to come, we have free and fair elections, we have a full democracy that will lead the nation forward. Because for now, honestly speaking, the way the terror networks are being built on the ground and so forth, they require the generals to correct that scenario. That is my thought.
Right, Chennai, do you want to come in?
Yeah, sure. I'm still recovering from what Doug said, to be honest, because even in my understanding, it seems I had even missed a very important point that Doug raised, which I'm still I'm still recovering, Uncle Jed. The fact that we could basically end up with, so if, for example, right, just to put this example out there, if we had if this thing was in place and someone like Wikno or Tagire or somebody like that went and paid all the, and is not even a known necessarily political actor, he's not campaigned, he's not, you don't know anything about him really as far as his politics is concerned, but if he managed to convince enough MPs, essentially he could just be president. I mean, guys, this is just so ridiculous. You literally could end up with any, the way that Chabangu came and the ridiculousness of Chabangu is like now they want to promote that into getting a president in. You could literally just get any random person to come in, and as long as they're able to convince the number of MPs that they want, then it's a done deal. I mean, come on, guys. Hatingajairirwi kusvika pakadaro. I mean, I don't understand. Okay, I know the whole campaign has been about 2030 and Mnangagwa was saying 2030, but guys, even 19 May chaiyo takamuka zvichinzi muswa 18, because sometimes in parliament what I've been told is that they can decide to debate this bill until midnight. So that is being debated whilst we are even sleeping. We can wake up on the 19th of May. And but we want to tell them, Kuti, chimbozvitrai muone, because this is not right. There's no way that we can allow for that to happen. And I say this even to any, doesn't it, we are now at a time where it doesn't matter what your political affiliation is. As long as you have logic, you have at least five senses. You can smell, you can hear sound, you can if you've got at least one of those senses, there's no way you can accept this. And unfortunately, when we stay silent, it equals acceptance. Even people will say, "Oh yeah, I don't agree with Mnangagwa." I don't. As long as you are not doing anything about it, you agree. That's what that means, right? We have to get to a place where we are ready to walk the talk, guys, because there's no way the whole country. I mean, I was on a space, that was being hosted by Scotty the other day on xenophobia. And of course, the guys that are the perpetrators of xenophobia in South Africa, they say, "Oh, go and fix your country and what have you." And obviously, there are 1,001 reasons we can push back on that. But equally, really, the onus is on us. We cannot outsource this. This is our battle to win. You know, and sometimes you think like I think Doug was talking about how what happens and how the divine intervention and so on. But if you look at this precise moment that we are in and what is happening globally. Now, I said sometime last year, I was in a workshop in Mozilla. I was facilitating a workshop in Barcelona. And in that workshop, it was really focused on Black people. And the majority of Black people that were in that workshop were African American. And so we were now talking about heritage and identity. And one thing that I really never experienced that privilege until I was in that moment is the privilege of saying, "No, I'm Zimbabwean. I know where I come from. I can tell you about how we live in Zimbabwe. I can tell you because I have experienced it. It's not something I've read in a book." And when I was speaking to my colleagues who are African American, and some people are saying, "Well, I'm still trying to find out like my identity. Where did I really come from? My ancestors, where did they come from?" And it's such a huge gap, even in not just in their identity, but even in their personal development, because they can only trace back so far. But for me, I can trace back and I can say my great, 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 this is where he lived, this is where I'm from, this is my totem, this is how they migrated. I've got that history and I know what it means and I've seen it. And so we need to think about our future in that perspective. We currently have a country where, I think is it nearly 13, 16 or whatever, 20% of the population like is not there. And if things are going to get worse, what is going to happen? We'll just be raising our children so that they leave Zimbabwe. And Zimbabwe, actually, the development is just going further and further down the drain. Things are not getting better by any stretch of the imagination. Even okay chaiyo yaramba kutungira, they've tried to restructure, they've closed it. Okay, yatakakura tichiona as a brand in Zimbabwe. So we are really